Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something really cool. We're going on a journey right inside our own bodies to peel back the layers and see how our muscles are actually built. So, have you ever really stopped to think about it? It's this incredibly complex biological machine, right? But don't worry, we're going to break it all down using a really simple but kind of perfect analogy that's going to guide us the whole way through. I want you to lock this idea in your head. A muscle is basically a big, thick rope. But that big rope is actually made up of smaller ropes. And those are made of even finer threads. This rope within a rope idea, it's everything. It's the key to understanding the whole structure, from the bicep you can see all the way down to the tiniest parts that actually generate force. All right, let's get started. We're going to begin at the macro level, the whole muscle itself, and then just keep zooming in, layer by layer, to see what all those smaller ropes are really made of. So first up, you've got the whole muscle. That's our big rope. It's wrapped up in this protective covering. Now, if you look inside, you'll see it's made of smaller bundles or smaller ropes. These are called fascicles. And if we pull out one of those and look inside, that's where we find the individual muscle cells, also known as muscle fibers. Okay, so now we're inside a single muscle cell, a fiber. And this is where things get really unique, because muscle cells have their own specialized parts with their own special names. But here's a little secret. There's a clue in all the names that tells you you're dealing with muscle. And that clue is the prefix sarco. It comes from the Greek word for flesh. So anytime you see sarco something, your brain should just go, muscle. So have a look here. The sarcolemma, that's just the fancy term for the muscle cell's membrane. The sarcoplasm, that's its cytoplasm. And the sarcoplasmic reticulum, you got it, that's its special version of the endoplasmic reticulum. But wait, we are not done zooming in. Not even close. Inside every single one of those muscle fibers, you've got literally thousands of these even tinier thread-like structures. They're called myofibrils. And these are the true engines of the muscle, packed together to generate all the force. Let's get even more granular and look at a single myofibril. We're doing this because this little thread is built from what is, without a doubt, the most important structural and functional unit in the entire muscle. And here it is, the sarcomere. Think of it like a tiny repeating brick in a long wall. The whole myofibril is just made of these sarcomeres lined up one after another. And you know how skeletal muscle looks kind of stripy under a microscope? Well, this repeating pattern of sarcomeres is exactly why. It's what gives it that striated look. So what creates those stripes? It's all about how different proteins are arranged. You get these light bands and these dark bands. The light ones are called I bands, and they only have thin protein filaments in them. The dark ones, the A bands, are darker because they're more crowded. They've got both thin filaments and some thicker ones overlapping. And if we zoom in on just that dark A band, we can see even more fine detail. See that line right down the middle? That's called the M line. And then there's that slightly lighter area around it, called the H zone. In a relaxed muscle, that's a spot where you'll only find those thick filaments. Okay, so I keep talking about thin filaments and thick filaments. What are they really? What is this molecular machinery actually made of? Let's find out. It all boils down to two superstar proteins. The thin filaments, they're made of a protein called actin. And a simple way to think of actin is as the rope that's going to get pulled. The thick filaments, they're made of a much beefier protein called myosin. Myosin is the motor. It's the thing that does all the pulling. Okay, deep breath. We've done it. We've gone from the whole muscle all the way down to the individual protein molecules. We've seen all the parts. Now for the really fun part. Let's put it all together and see what happens when the muscle actually contracts. This is the critical moment. And here's maybe the most important thing to get right. The filaments themselves don't actually shrink or get shorter. No way. The entire magic of muscle contraction is that they just slide past one another. So let's look at a relaxed muscle first. The sarcomere is kind of stretched out. You can clearly see how wide those light I bands are on either side. And that brighter H zone is visible right in the middle of the dark A band. There's not a lot of overlap here. But then, the signal to contract arrives. Those myosin motors fire up, they grab onto the actin ropes, and they pull them toward the center M line. And look what happens. The light I bands shrink. They can even disappear completely. The H zone? Gone. It vanishes as the thin filaments slide inward and pull the ends of the sarcomere, the Z lines, closer and closer together. So here's the crucial point. That tiny, tiny sliding motion happening inside one microscopic sarcomere gets repeated across millions upon millions of sarcomeres, all at once. And that massive collective action is what generates the powerful, coordinated force of a muscle contraction. Let's just zoom back out real quick. We started with the molecular filaments actin and myosin. They form the sarcomere. Sarcomeres line up to create a myofibril. Myofibrils are packed into a muscle fiber, which are grouped into muscle bundles, all making up the whole muscle. Just an incredible hierarchy. So we've built this incredible, intricate machine, the engine of all our movement. It's a beautiful piece of biological engineering, but it's just sitting there, waiting for a command. It needs a signal from the brain to actually start the whole process of contraction. It needs a spark to turn it on.